We have had a very unusual timeline. We started making the record in May. It's being released in August, and that's almost unheard of. That's a very, very short timeline, and I think it's a testament to all of the hard work that people have been willing to put in. We're in an unusual situation in the online, in the usual narrative of online crowdfunding, because oftentimes the successful projects are the ones that already have a big following from doing a bunch of live shows. They have fans of the band, and then they kind of set out to make an album. And we were kind of doing the opposite. And so we didn't have a lot of people who had been to shows and heard us. So I think our the main things that attracted people to donate were the social message behind the project, and then also the fact that we had some product for them to see already. We had lots of photographs, we had snippets of the album already. We were just asking them to help finish off the last post-production costs. I'm immensely grateful for the support that we have been able to garner, simply because people are excited and moved by the message. After we recorded, I actually went to Cuba for a few weeks, so production took a break for a little while.
After she got back, though, we delved right into the mixing and editing with Jake. And Jake Belzer is just incredible. All that time spent just in him was like pulling back the curtain of The Wizard of Oz, but finding out that he was still a wizard all along.
There was nothing Jake couldn't do given some time and Pro Tools. Two particularly cool things that I remember are that during the drum solo in Bismillah, there's vocal samples from a performance that occurred in a cathedral, and I asked him if we could make the drums sound like they were in a cathedral too, and he said, "You bet," and pulled up literally this cathedral machine that could make a sample sound like one of a dozen cathedrals from around the world. Another super cool thing he did was, for the sampling on Black and Red and Bismillah, I was drawing from two different sources, old recordings from the 1960s of Malcolm X speeches and audio that I recorded via Skype from my own computer. So very, very different sounding. I asked him if we could make the Skype recordings sound the same as the Malcolm X speeches, all with that old 1960s scratchy vibe. And 5 minutes later, you couldn't tell the difference.
So after mixing, we sent it to Kate Siefker for mastering, and she did a phenomenal job. Just prior to working with us, in fact, she had mastered the #1 world music record on iTunes, so she's the real deal. And one thing that she said that really touched us was, I got to say, this is the coolest thing I've ever worked on. I'm totally honored to be a part of it, which is really nice because Kate's been involved in some super cool stuff.
During this time, we also had to start putting together the liner notes and album art, and I had this idea that the album cover should be a new and revised version of Lady Justice, with scales and a sword, but with a pair of shades instead of a blindfold. So we got our friend Imani Ramsey as a model and our friend Jeff Brown to do the photography. And then we went to the brick wall behind the studio where we made Siglo XXI to take the pictures.
And working with Jeff and Imani was an absolute breeze. Imani was super wonderful through the whole thing, was giggling the whole time she wasn't looking totally stunning. And Jeff's high performing, on-point professionalism really made the whole thing come together, because some of the pictures almost looked like they were painted. We got the scales from a local antique dealer, and the sword was on loan from Bloomington's medieval role-playing community. Oh, it exists, and it's super, super fun.
We took a bunch of photos for the album art, but Jeff also took some candid shots of Matt and Imani and I, so we've got some really special photos from this time. And after that, the liner notes kind of wrote themselves. All we needed to do was to write down the background and substance behind the record. What made it challenging was that I was the one doing all of the graphic design, and that's not something that I've really done before at this level. But luckily, Wayne Wallace's daughter, Cheryl Thomas, was willing to be our graphic design hotline and really gave us some good pointers to make Siglo look as professional as it sounds.
Wayne was walking us through all the steps of this time and connected us with all our promotional personnel. The people Wayne pointed us at for promotion are all at the top of their field and the height of their powers: Kate Smith and Jim Igo. We even got Neil Tesser to write our press release. We knew he was good at writing because he's won a Grammy for it. The liner notes to Coltrane's Afro Blue Impressions.
I think the biggest disappointment at this time was that Child Song for an Incarcerated Parent had to be dropped from the record. I wrote it based on a hymn called Father, I Adore You, and the publishing company that owns the rights to that hymn refused to give us a license for a derivative work because they objected to the fact that in the context of our song, the connotation of father was changed from meaning God to an actual parent.
Putting that tune on the record would have meant committing a felony, which means up to $500,000 in fines or up to 5 years in federal prison. The irony that the tune about incessant incarceration could have put 2 college kids in jail is not lost on us, although it might have gone over the heads of the lawyers involved.
Getting all of the production finished up in just a couple months was very difficult, but I'm so glad that we had a stellar team of helpers every step of the way. So I think what's next for LMC is to, first release the album. It'll be released on August 29th, and we've got a live show. And then we've got at least 2 more live shows planned. And then our hope is to go on tour on winter break, probably just the Midwest within driving distance. We've been hooked up with some foundations that do grants, especially for groups that are hoping to go on tour. So I think that would be fantastic. We've got a number of people in some cities in the Midwest who are interested in having us come and play. And then the next goal is to follow it up with a second album. We've already got a concept in mind for the second album, which is great, and we've even started on a few of the ideas for some of the compositions. So yeah, it'll be another whirlwind year, I think, and hopefully throwing in more live performances in the tour will be very exciting. At the heart of all of this is a deep, deep love for all of humanity, but specifically people who are experiencing any kind of oppression. And love demands justice.